Hey guys, what's up? It's Hunter, and today we're playing some 2-4 no limit at full tilt, and I'm thinking this is probably going to be a two-part video, kind of a shorter two-part video, mostly because I'm hoping to kind of show some of the four betting principles that I talked about in my last video. I'm trying. What I'd like to do is show some of that stuff in action, and often that will require a slightly longer video than normal. This is my third hand at the table. I just have played the blinds, and I don't know anything about this guy, but I do know he's got a very wide raising range, so I'm gonna go ahead and three pop him right away on the button. Kind of just establish the fact that, you know, I'm going to be playing my button a lot. I'm going to be defending my button, and this guy's just so aggressive that when he's raising 23% of his hands, I mean, I'm going to show he's going to be folding so many of those to a three bet that's just going to show an immediate profit right away. Plus, I have a good hand on top of that, so I think that's a pretty solid four bet with 10 or three bet with 10-10. Against a lot of players, I will just I'll even smooth call 10-10 depending on the situation, even in position. But that looked like a good spot to three bet it. Okay, so I'm not gonna do anything with this. I scouted out these tables a little bit before I sat, and as you can see, we have 06 Deluxe is a 44-10, so he's a nice, good guy to have at the table. And this Pirate 17 dude over here on my left is also a good addition. He's playing a 49 style, although we don't have that many hands on it. His VP has been going up since I've been at the table, which is always a good sign. So I don't think I've played with any of these guys before, and no one really looks that familiar to me. So I don't think there's any history or any dynamics like that I need to keep in mind. But I guess we will, I'm sure we'll be developing some over the course of this video. So, with that, let's just see what's going on. Okay, so this guy has raised. This small boy guy has three bet. Now, I have not, I'm not using Poker Tracker 3 yet, so I'm not looking at three bet numbers. However, you know, just looking at a PFR of 12, that and the fact that this guy is on the passive side post flop, just looking at these things kind of leads me to believe that this isn't the type of player that is going to be three betting all that light. And you know, so as a result, I would expect him to have something decent here. I mean, obviously this hand's basically in a vacuum since we just got here, and maybe these two have history, but I would expect this to be something decent. And if this guy, I don't even know how to say that name, Apo Bates Racer, if he has the same read I have, it looked like he just tried to bluff race this guy in a three bet pot. With the information I have, that is not a play I would have tried to make against small boy over here. Just because, like I said, I expect him to have, you know, I expect his range to be weighted more toward solid hands in that situation, and that's not the kind of player I'm looking to make a move on in a three bet pot. I just think I don't think there's a whole lot of value there. But we do know that this racer gentleman over here is extremely aggressive, as we can see from his flop, turn, and river stats. They're all over 4. So he's very aggressive. He's playing a 21 PFR. So he is certainly, and since he'll be in the big blind and we're on the button, I'll be expecting this guy to three bet me very light. So this is probably going to be the kind of guy where a four bet bluff could be very profitable against, simply because, you know, and this guy has now raised like 3 times in the last orbit, so this guy's very aggressive. So just knowing that, this is, you know, just knowing what we know about him, you know, his three bet range is going to be very, very wide. So we're going to pound on his blinds and try to get him to three bet us light, so we can kind of take it away from him with a four bet. But this is exactly the kind of guy where a four bet bluff will show an immediate profit. And if you haven't seen my classroom four betting video, all the math on why that play is profitable against certain players is shown there. So that would kind of be a good primer to this video. So you might want to go check that out. Okay, so this racer guy he's stealing. He's raising from the small blind. So what's happening in this hand over here? What's happening in this hand over here? Okay, let's see here. Okay, so Pirate has raised. Pirate's got a pretty low PFR at only 10. And flop is check check. Turn, Tony Romo just donked out. Pirate called, and then he fired the river, and he folded. So, okay, so and that's kind of interesting. He was either that's such a low board that I wouldn't really expect that board to hit Pirate's raising range very much. So this guy was either semi-bluffing his flush on the turn and it got there in the river, or he just figured that maybe this guy called the turn with ace high, and he thought he could move him off of him on the river. And regardless of what it was, he won the pot. Okay, so this is a hand I would just fold here. Ace 9, even suited, does not play well out of position, especially against aggressive opponents. And both these guys are very aggressive, and that's just not a hand I am going to try to mess around with. Ace 10 suited, depending on the players, I would sometimes play there. That's a hand I would sort of I would 3-bet against a button. But against a guy raising in the hijack, I usually just even pitch that. It's just such a hard hand to play out of position profitably. Okay, so this guy has limped in, and let's think about what the best thing to do here is. I'm just going to check it to him. I want to get a feel for this guy before I start trying to take pots away from him with donk bets. And he bets out like that. So he limps in, and he makes this really weak play. Let's just see how he responds to a check raise right away. What's a pot check raise? 22. Let's make it 20. And, if he doesn't have a king or a 10, there's not a whole lot he can do about this. And since the guy's playing 44% of his hands, odds are he does not have one of those hands, one of those cards. So, and sometimes against a guy like this who is just not going to be able to contest the flop that easily, sometimes I'll just donk bet right into him. But I think this guy, for one, I get the c bet out of him, and two, I think that the check raise just shows it's a little more convincing against this particular player, or a player like him. Guys like this, when they see check raises, they generally are not going to continue with anything but a very strong range. Jack 10 is a standard call. I'm just going to fold this. And we're getting squeezed. Now, it's kind of an interesting situation. It's a 5-handed game, but so this guy raised basically from the hijack. It's a very big 3-bet. I'm just going to go ahead and fold right here, but if I see this happening, let me put this a little differently. Had this guy been on the cutoff and I had called, and then this guy 3-bet, that would be a spot for me to probably, sometimes I'd call it, sometimes I'd turn it into a bluff and 4-bet it. But since this guy is raising an early position, this guy should be giving him a little more credit than usual. And being so new to the table, I don't know if there is any sort of dynamic between these two players, draw for fee and give me your candy. So I'm not going to make a move like that right off the bat, just because I just kind of need to assume. I like to play tighter when I first get to the table and try to feel things out. But since this guy was raising, in first position, and this guy was 3-betting there, yeah, he could be squeezing, but also I need to give a little bit of credit to the fact that this guy is good. his stats suggest he's a decent player. He sees that this guy's raising an early position, and therefore he's going to be less likely to squeeze. So that's not the situation I really want to start four betting in. At least not this early in the video, the session, I should say. Okay, so he folded to me. I would have called here with King 6. I do not like folding my big blind steals versus a small blind, so I would have definitely defended with that. I wouldn't have 3-bet it. Okay, here's a spot I'm just gonna fold. I don't have a whole lot of reason to think that this guy is going to enter the pot. If I knew if the button had called, for instance, I would probably call here, but I think it's just a fold. Without knowing this guy's going to come in, then it's a two-way pot. My implied odds really aren't that great because this guy's a pretty tight player. He's raising a wide range. It's going to be very difficult for me to get the value I need to get out of it when I hit my set in order to make that preflop call profitable. And we're going to raise 3-3. Your candy has a high went to showdown. This top right numbers went to showdown. This is one below that's cold call preflop. This is number of hands, obviously, but 30 is high. That's definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, this is a spot I'm just gonna pop it up. This guy has 2 cards, and he's just put $6 worth of dead money into this pot, so I'm certainly interested in capturing it, considering that. I was wary that this guy's on the button, and he might know what we're doing. So that was one reason not to do it, but I am new to the table and I haven't really done much. So I didn't have much of a reason not to. I didn't have much of a reason to think that he's going to be messing with me on purpose. So this is obviously a great board I'll see bet 100% of my range on a board like that. So, and we take it down. But I have no reason to think that Give Me Your Candy isn't going to be respecting me this early on, simply because he's seen me pretty much do nothing. So that's always something to keep in mind. It can be really easy when this is a dynamic I don't like. Some guys like to get to the table and immediately start 3-betting and immediately make a lot of raises and everything. And I mean, I do that sometimes, but not very often, especially with unknown players. Like, if I sit down with a group of people that I play with a lot, and everybody knows each other, and I know that, then that's the kind of situation where I would do it, because then I would kind of establish that I'm in a gambling mood. I'm there. It's gonna be an aggressive session, and I kind of want to establish that. And these guys know me, so they know what I'm capable of. But against a bunch of random people, which is what this session is. This is a trivially easy 3-bet against, sorry about that. Let me shut that volume off. This is a very easy 3-bet against a wide button open. I'm way ahead of his opening range, so that's a raise for value. But as I was saying, when I'm sitting down for the first time with a bunch of random people, I'm not going to just start 3-betting like crazy and raising like crazy, mostly because if I start off tight and then I open my game up later, I'm going to have more fold equity. Like, if I show up and all of a sudden I'm a maniac, it's going to create sort of an artificial dynamic, and it's going to put me in a situation where it's going to be very easy to So, if I've been really active and I think that these guys are looking to play back at me or play pots with me, then that's just a hand I'll get rid of a lot of the time. Just gotten a seat on another table with a pretty big fish on it. I'm trying to decide what my best play here is. I think I'm going to swap out this left table. Just because, like, we have a pretty big fish here, but he's on our left, and our edge when he's on our left is far less than if he were on our right. And the difference is actually pretty incredible. So, that's just kind of a seat selection thing that's really, really important to keep in mind. And, like, sometimes, like, you can have a great table with, like, a maniac at it, but the guy on the maniac's left is going to have just such a bigger edge than when he's on your left. So that is always something to keep in mind. So I've raised this up, and this is not a board I'm looking to get involved in at all. I think that's pretty obvious. It's just very, very ugly for my hand. And okay, so here I'm going to bump this up. This guy's limping a wide range, and I don't think. Oh wow, so this guy just smooth called queen queen. Oh, that's dirty. That is unfortunate. Okay. You always got to root for the weaker player in any sort of race, no matter what the guy's hand is, just because we want him to get the money so that we have a chance to get it. I find that was a very interesting hand. The fact that this guy didn't 3-bet queen queen, then this guy didn't squeeze with ace jack, so that was an interesting way for, and then he just donked out with no club. That was an interesting way for both of them to play the hand. And when we get to the blinds, I'm going to swap this table out for the next one, where I've just posted, just because it's a much more profitable situation for us than this current left-hand table. Okay, so we're going to, there we go. And I've done this a couple other videos. I've brought in better tables, and it's just something to, I think it's really important to always kind of keep an eye on if there is a better game going than what you're currently playing. And it's just, because again, you make your money in poker from the weaker players. You don't make it from the really good players. So, like, this table is just so much better. Like, look at this guy. He's a 44-14, and this is a much better sample size, and he's on our right. So we have the best position of anybody at the table. We have the most profitable seat at this table, and I think our money-making potential is far greater at this table than it was at the last one. So that would make it a very good reason to sit. Okay. I just posted my blinds, and I folded the last two hands. And I'm just going to fold this. I'm not looking to play a suited connector like that out of position, especially a one-gapper. The one-gappers can be fine in position, but even more so than a like 8-7, 9-7 really needs position. It's a tough hand to play out of position. And you're going to find yourself in tough spots if you play that routinely. Okay. I want to see if that guy c-bet. Okay, so he raised ace-10. He missed the flop. He's going to fold. This last hand, he raised ace-10. He misses the flop. He took one stab at it, and that was it. And Small Boy did not 3-bet queen-queen. I guess no one 3-bets queen-queen ever on full tilt anymore. That's amusing. So we've seen two people smooth call that hand on the button. Okay. So, stab once with a c-bet, then gave up. And this guy smooth called queen-queen on button against a weak player, and that's even more important. And then he just called king-high flop. Oops. And checked it down. And that is even more. The fact that he smooth called that against a weak player, is a lot more telling than if you've done it against a good player. I mean, the reasons to smooth call that hand on the button are you're hoping someone in the blinds is going to squeeze, or just for deception, stuff like that. But against a weak player who probably isn't going to fold, like this guy is only raising 9% of his hands. Like you can't tell me that he is going to be folding that many of those hands to a 3-bet. I just don't see it happening. So, build a pot and get your queen in there for value. And, you have position and a premium holding. So, a premium holding. So why would you not 3-bet that against a guy who isn't going to fold pre-flop? That just makes me think this guy's kind of weak tight. And I'm just very unimpressed with that play, to say the least. Okay. So we don't have a hand on this guy, Don Camilio 2K4. I have absolutely no idea what that means. I just want to see if he's from and full tilt's not. I want to see. I always like to see where people are from, just because you can kind of go by some regional stereotypes on how aggressive guys are going to be when you lack all other information. So this guy 3-bet, and he's now checking this hand down. What does he have? Ace King? Okay, Ace Queen. So that's kind of interesting. He all right. So he took his one stab on the flop, and then he gave up. So that's good to see. So we 3-bet Ace Queen, and he stabbed on the flop, then checked down. Okay, so we got kings. Now, when I take notes on a player, I generally do it in situations where I usually give an example of what the hand was, because like that's something that I can always like make a conclusion from. Like I don't need to say that he, is aggressive pre-flop and passive post-flop, because like that doesn't really. I'm not giving myself a reason for that opinion. I like to have an example, and then, when I go back and read that same note, I'm going to have the same exact opinion as I did when I made the note. I just think it's a little more precise way to take notes. But, whenever I see anything that I consider especially good or especially bad, I always kind of explain the hand in the note box. Okay. Well, hopefully we can. I would really like to be able to show you guys some 4-betting stuff. These tables haven't really been especially aggressive, or and my cards in the later position have been so terrible that I haven't really wanted to do too much with them. However, I will start forcing the action if this doesn't pick up, because I did want to be able to show some 4-betting stuff to kind of follow up to my classroom video. And I also did I did introduce this video with that concept, so it'd be kind of ridiculous if I didn't make any of that happen. So, okay, we're just going to 3-bet. Draw for this guy was at the last table that we left a minute ago. I wonder how many tables this guy's playing. Let's look into that. Okay, wow, that guy is playing. This is a hand I'm just going to fold suited. I would consider raising. This draw for fee guy. That guy's playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 or 11 tables. That is something to keep in mind, because he is going to be playing. He ought to be playing very straightforward. He's going to be playing his cards, and I mean, I don't know. Most players. Dusty being a notable exception. Most players are simply not able to play all that great when they're playing that many tables. Here, I'm going to lead out, because there are a lot of draws that this guy could have limped with that hit this board, and also I want to build a pot, and I want to start getting some money in here. I don't really want to wait for the turn, because then the pot's going to be, it's a limp pot, so it's so small, and it's going to be hard for me to win a big pot if I don't bet here. Okay, that's a great result. I am going to c-bet over here, even into 2 people, simply because it's such a dry board. Okay, so this guy has check raised me. I'm gonna just call. I think a three bet is going to. Okay, that's a fabulous card, obviously. I think a three bet exposes my hand way too much and just kind of screams out, yes, I want as much action as I can possibly get, and that's gonna fold out too much of his range. I'm gonna have to fold to this guy's check raise. I'm not particularly happy about this. It is a min check raise. I know nothing about the guy. If I knew a little bit more, if I'd seen him do this before, I would definitely three bet here. But I'm just gonna let him have it and focus on over here. Here, I'm just gonna call. I have the hard nuts, and the problem again, I don't really. If this guy bets out again, he's gonna be committing himself with my stack size. That's why I like just a call there. He can put me on something like an 8, Jack 10. Whereas if I raise, I think I lose action from a lot of the hands that are going to give me action if I just call the turn and push the river. So, and this guy's odds are just going to be phenomenal to call. He's going to have to call two. He's getting 3-1 here. He's going to have a hard time folding anything that he triple barreled with. So let's see what he had. He had a flush. Okay. So that king was just a huge cooler for him. That was a really good result. And it's possible, had I done something like shove the flop, he would have been coming along anyway. However, I think that, off the top of my head, I think there are probably more hands I'm gonna get some action from if I play the hand a little more passively like that. Raise our aces. And I didn't mean to give Don Camillo the green. I'll give him like the light blue or something. Here, I'm not going to try to do anything with. Man, I cannot get action from my big hands today. I'm not going to try to do anything with this. Actually, I'll just call one because this guy's... Well, let's see what happens. I don't really like folding a middle pair to a min bet in this situation, especially if this guy has limped. Like, is he limping a king? I mean... it's obviously possible, but I think I have the best hand here just too often to be check folding to a min bet. And I'm going to call this one too. That's not a card I'm thrilled about, mainly because Jack 10 just got there. But let's just see. I'm going to kind of tank this for a minute and kind of hope that I can convince him that maybe I'm trying to set him up or something like that, and he'll just check back. But let's see what we can do here. And he half pots it. That is interesting. Okay, I'm probably going to make this call, actually. I'm not, thrilled about this situation. However, a guy who's limping in with 43%, and he could be bluffing a fair amount of these hands. Flush draws, straight draws. I'm trying to think of hand combos here. This one's really close. I think getting 3-1, though, I don't have to be right. I only have to be right 25% of the time here, and I think I definitely am. So, okay, he limped in with King Jack. That's just awesome. That's a fantastic piece of information. Open limp King Jack, bet small, all 3 king flop. That is just a great piece of information. So, clearly we probably won't be making a call down like that in the future, but and obviously, there are reasons why I shouldn't have done that, but I think there are some good reasons to do it as well. It's a debatable play. Okay, great flop to see bet. It's also, this guy seems to like to, this guy's he called my last blind steal. A lot of good players like to call in the blinds and then check raise any ace flop against button openers, just because they know that an ace isn't a big part of our range. And once I have that piece of information from them, I'll start doing things like either checking it back and raising the turn, or I will just go ahead and 3-bet them right there on the flop, just because, if I think an ace is a small part of their range too, and that, they're making that move too often, I'll just put in a 3-bet, just rebluff them, and that's usually the end of the hand. Okay. Man, I'm just going to fold here, and I would really like to play a hand with this guy, but the problem is I can't really 3-bet him, and just because, a 3-bet it kind of kills my implied odds, and I don't want to just call and be out of position against these better players, so I'm just going to fold. I'd call it in position, though. But yeah, here's how many tables draw for free is playing. Several. So that kind of gives us an idea of what he's working on, what he's working with. Okay, wow. So I'm kind of glad I didn't come along now. So a 3-bet and a cold 4-bet. And this was an instant 4-bet. This guy did this really, really quickly. So I do not think he's bluffing. I have no reason to think he's bluffing. Had he like thought about this and said, it takes a little bit of time to kind of put this situation together. You have to think about, okay, this guy raised. Again, I'm going to fold for all the reasons I talked about earlier. It takes anyone some time to put together that, okay, the weak player raised, an aggro player 3-bet him late position to isolate. So maybe if I 4-bet him, I can take it all down. Like, you're not going to be able to, like, rarely do you see someone put all that together, like, immediately and make a 4-bet bluff that quickly. Like, that guy had a hand. He knew what he wanted to do with it, and he 4-bet it as soon as he could. Like, that's what that situation was. So, had he thought about it and tanked it a little bit, I would be much more likely to think that he was making a play. But no reason to think that there. All right, this is a terrible board. This hand, I'm trying to think what I want to do here. I'm showing some solid strength. I'm going to go ahead and make I don't think the size of my 3-bet my C-bet matters a whole lot against this particular guy. I think the fact that I've just shown a lot of strength by raising. Okay, well, obviously I'm done with this hand. That C-bet's very debatable. Mostly that it's just after I saw him limp with such a wide range, I just think that I can, I can take this down a decent amount of time, especially with a smaller C-bet. I think this guy is kind of looking whether or not I'm betting. He's not going to look at the size and really make any conclusions. Here I'm just going to check it. I just don't think I get a whole lot of value from many hands that I beat. Like what does Ace-7 do? He limped Queen-Queen. So that's awesome. This is an interesting spot. If I was as deep as these guys are are 800 deep or $800 deep, I'd call, but I'm not. And out of position, my implied odds, even with that hand, aren't that great. It's just so hard to get paid it's just tough to play the draw that way. So this guy's now limped King Jack and Queen Queen. Oh, limped Queen Queen. Put in no action. So I kind of ran into the top of his range on that hand, and that was unfortunate, but I'd play it the same probably. Like you can't tell me that guy's going to float that flop with ace high. I just don't believe it. This guy's so tight that while the king is certainly in his range, I think this guy's cold calls are going to be more weighted toward pocket pairs. And he's 3-bet me, or he's min-raised me. Okay, well, considering how tight and seemingly passive this guy is, I'm not going to do anything other than fold. However, I'm not happy about it. But we're gonna keep that. We're gonna pay attention to that guy. And these guys that play like 16-4, I mean, he probably had ace king there. Like guys like this often don't even 3-bet ace king. They'll just cold call with it, and I don't know. That's just ridiculous. But normally they're easy to play against because when they put in action, they usually have a really good hand. So they're not that hard to exploit. So in 36 minutes, this is like a rare day for full tilt. In 36 minutes, I have not been 3-bet, and which means I haven't had an opportunity to 4-bet anybody. So maybe I'll have to try to work some of that stuff into my next video. All right, here we go. Don Camillo. Now this is the problem here. Problem with this is I've still been quiet over here. I am early position. This is not a spot I'm just gonna fold here. My implied odds aren't that good. I'm 10-1 on a stack, and that's if I stack him every single time. I pretty much have to stack him almost every time to get value. The problem is, I think this guy really has a hand. It's a really big 3-bet, and I'm in an early position, and he has really no reason. We have no dynamic. He has no reason to think that I don't have a hand. So it's not like I'm on the button there. So I'm just gonna fold that. Same problem here. This is the exact same situation. I'm raising with the gun, and this tight wad is 3-betting me. King Queen does not do well against this guy's 3-betting range. And if he's only raising 4% of his hands, like what's his 3-betting range? I mean, who knows? It destroys King Queen. I can tell you that. So that was another fold. I just have not run into a situation where I think that the guy is 3-betting me light. But it's important not to get impatient and suddenly decide that just because you're getting 3-bet in these situations that they're full of it. That's kind of what can lead you into making a really big mistake for a lot of money. And that's just the kind of thing you don't. It's just why it's important just to be realistic about what's going on here. I've yet to think that any of these people are 3-betting me light. Okay. This is interesting if he checks to me. I guess I'll take a free card. If he's not folding that flop, I don't know what he's going to fold on this turn. No, a raise isn't going to accomplish. I don't think a raise accomplishes anything. I'm just going to call him. I guess a lot of players would fold here just because a 1-card straight is just such an obvious hand. You don't have a whole lot of fold equity. But against a guy like this, I think I probably have a little bit of implied. Excuse me. A 1-card straight when there's 4 on the board, like you don't have a lot of implied odds against the guy when you hit. So a lot of times a fold in that turn would be very correct. In this situation, though, I think that this guy is probably weak enough that I can probably get some money for him. Although it's still close. I consider folding there. It's still close. It's really important to keep in mind. When you're drawing to a hand like that and you're 5-1 to hit the hand, but you have to, you're only getting 2-1 on the call. You have to have implied odds to make it profitable. And when there's a 4-card straight on the board, a lot of times you don't. People just shut down. So it's just so, like if he bet or if he checks and I pot it, or even half pot it, it's just so obvious what I could have been drawing to. So, that's something to keep in mind. But in this guy's case, still a little close, but I think a call was okay there. But one thing to keep in mind on both these tables is that I have been doing a lot of raising, and I have not done anything to a 3-bet other than fold. So people have seen me fold to 3-bets. And in my opinion, they were all good folds, given the situation and my position and their position and no history and all that. But going forward, I think that that is something to keep in mind, and people might start opening their 3-betting game against me. I'm going to sit out really fast and get this part of the video going, and then I'll be back for part 2 momentarily.